A big welcome to the Nick Elston Show, hosted by inspirational speaker and transformational speaking coach Nick Elston. This show brings you the people who inspire, motivate, educate, and engage in all walks of life, sharing their insights and experiences honestly, unfiltered, and off script. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into today's show.
Hey everyone, a big welcome back to the Nick Elston Show. I can't stop grinning for this one. It's season 4, episode 10. And do you know what? Usually, to be fair, I've got to introduce you to my guests to explain who they are and where I met them. But you'll know this one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jackie Weaver. Big round of applause. Jackie Weaver, welcome to the show.
Hello there, Nick. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. Now, our paths crossed through the power of LinkedIn and stuff. But of course, they crossed a lot sooner than that. And actually, kind of what prompted me is I saw your appearance on Mastermind recently. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Now, for those who have been living under a rock for a little while, that you kind of shot to internet fame throughout lockdown with the COVID kind of related council meeting through Zoom. There's the links in the bio, actually, if you want to check that one out. Did you ever see it kind of go in this way? Did you ever think that this was going to be a thing, that before all of this, kind of what were you, tell us what you were about before that video went viral?
It's so difficult to sort of put it in kind of context without making it sound like it's, like really dull. But I mean, I have a very ordinary life, married for over 30 years, 3 grown-up sons. And I've been involved with town and parish councils for about 25 years. So the idea of going along to a council meeting and sometimes facing some challenges, not unique. I must say that particular one, I've never come across such hostility and anger, never. I mean, I'm often asked that because the last thing I want to do is give people the impression that, if you dare to dip your toe in the water, you probably will find that. That's not the case at all. So having experienced that, it was a kind of like a wow moment. But then 2 months go by, and if it can take people's minds back to how we were all kind of in that moment. We were coming up to Christmas. Christmas was going to be so different. We had no idea what it was going to be like, and I think everybody, it's always dangerous speaking for everybody, but certainly all I'd got in my mind was, how am I going to get through Christmas? How's it going to be different? How can you meet everyone's expectations? What's going to happen, etc. So handfuls come December was no longer on my mind.
Do you think actually that I certainly see in my space around kind of mental health, and even from the public speaking point of view, I've Harvard considered public speaking a greater fear than death, as you've probably experienced more than ever right now with all your appearances on media. But do you feel that actually fear was a big driver in terms of setting the tone of a lot of virtual conversations? Do you think that situation would have happened in person, given the right circumstances? Or do you think actually there was some, should we say, safety or a lack of filter when it comes to a virtual call?
I think you are right in many occasions. I think that whole virtual meeting thing is something that I think we're beginning to get to grips with. But I think in those early days was challenging for us. However, knowing the players for several years before, I don't think it would have made much difference if it was a physical meeting. Interesting.
So I used to run, I've never shared this on here before, so you're kind of bringing something out of me as well. So I used to run a pub locally, just north of Bristol where I live, and it was run by the council, and it was called the Ratepayers Arms. Really cool. And this pub was actually owned and run by the council. So as one of the kind of stewards of the organisation, I would attend council meetings. And as you said, it's such a passionate environment because there's a lot of beliefs and there's a lot of passion, and people go into those positions because they genuinely have a desire to help people. They genuinely have a desire to do some good in their community. But obviously, as you said, that can really conflict with other really strong opinions in the room, couldn't it?
I think that if that's the motivation behind somebody going forward as a counsellor, then I think we have that kind of, they used to call it robust debate. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Well, I'm okay with it. I don't really like it. I much prefer consensus, but there you go. But, you know, I accept that exactly from the point that you were making. However, that's not everyone's motivation in going forward as a counsellor. And one of the things that I've been trying to do over the past 12 months is encourage what I call the unusual suspects to get involved. So in many ways, it is the very people that you were talking about there who have that passion for their local community and want some mechanism for moving things forward in their community. And a parish council is wonderful for doing that. But we do have some people for whom being a counsellor is the objective.
Yeah.
Of the community.
So is it kind of very kind of ego fueled in that sense? Is it status driven?
It can be.
Yeah.
And again, last thing I want to do is put anybody off. That's in a minority, but it is a vocal minority, and as you saw in Hunthorpe, it has a hugely detrimental effect to the council. And again, that's one of the reasons I keep pushing the unusual suspect kind of campaign, because I really want to fill up those seats with community-minded people.
Yeah.
You know, because that, in a way, is a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have your interactions been in those same circles since? Obviously, things have changed a lot since, and not just in terms of your fame and visibility, but also it's kind of been a situation which is very openly kind of critiqued and criticised from other people's point of view. And there was also, you kind of strode into some big kind of conversations around things like sexism as well. And that's really interesting that kind of what started out as kind of like trying to manage a Zoom call turned into this big kind of national conversation. How has it affected your relationship with those counsellors and people around you?
I guess I have a lot of benefits in that I'm well known in Cheshire. And not for throwing out time at the pub. So I have a reputation that I've built up, I hope, over the best part of 25 years. So a lot of people know me, and they know me over a long period of time. The other thing is that I'm not, I guess that I'm a bit like, what's that character called? Nanny McPhee. So my job with councils is I don't stay with them. When they have problems, I come in and resolve the issues for them, and then I go away again.
Okay.
You know, unless you have an issue, I don't hear from you. So, I mean, in the case of Hanforth has now gone from strength to strength. New councillors have been elected. They were contested election. The public really got behind it. They renamed themselves a town council. Really good idea. It was for two reasons. One, they are certainly big enough. I mean, they're very close to Manchester Airport, have a really good shopping centre there as well, big enough to be a town council. And it was their way of kind of saying, we are different, and they are. And consequently, I don't hear much from them at all.
Interesting. I think when it comes to that kind of element, like I said, it'd be quite easy to look at these situations at rise. And how did that Zoom call get released? I don't actually know that. How was it released into kind of public domain?
I only found that out latterly, because the way in which, now, back up a little. Up until the 7th of May last year, local councils, and that includes town and parish councils, were able to hold virtual meetings.
Yeah.
Post-May, we haven't been able to, and we keep pushing government to change the legislation to allow us to. So all of this was very new to us. And the way it was managed at Hanforth was that the meeting would be recorded, and when the minutes were done, the minutes and the recording were given to the chairman of the meeting.
Okay.
So that's what happened. So having handed over the minutes and the link to the meeting, nothing more to do with me. And then, as I say, time went by. My understanding is that, as is their usual way, they posted it on the website. And there was a lovely young man, I've met him and some of his colleagues a couple of times now down in London, who is a politics student. And they have kind of like a debating society kind of thing, where he likes to take along something that he's found on the internet that he thinks might be interesting for the group to discover. discuss. And he came across the handful of parish council meeting, took it along to the group. One of his friends in the group thought it was something that would be good to share, but not as an hour 30 long video. So what she did was she cropped the first 4 or 5 minutes. And it isn't a paced job, if you know what I mean. Some people think that it's little snippets taken out over a longer period of time. It's not. It's real time, but it is just the beginning of the meeting. And that was what she posted on YouTube, which went viral.
Wow. I mean, how many times you get that said to you? You don't have the authority here, Jackie Weaver. You must get that a lot. I mean,
yeah. I guess it's one of those things that, and I guess you've just done it as well, where people say, you must hear this all the time, but nevertheless, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got. I couldn't have you and not say it. That's the thing. It's kind of,
and I can't beat you up for that. I can't say I'm unhappy about it, because in fact, it has served me incredibly well over that year.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that as well. Thank you for not beating me up. I'm a big lad anyway, but I don't want to be beaten up by Jackie Weaver. That'd go viral again, probably, to be fair.
You can make beating people up. You can just make them bad about it.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be what I wanted to do. And in fact, the book that I brought out, I wanted to call it A Little Book of Common Sense, because I feel that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that's what's inside it. But I could understand that the publisher, who has autonomy over the title, in effect, said it should be called You Do Have the Authority Here. Because, of course, we linked it back to that. So I totally get it.
So tell us about the book. I mean, for everybody watching and listening, the link's in the bios. Do check it out. But tell us about the book and what was the kind of thinking behind that. Like I said, you had the common sense theme. What the kind of themes that you cover and what you're hoping to achieve with that?
Well, it's funny. People often ask me, had you always wanted to write a book? And I thought, gosh, you must think I'm a right pretentious person. I mean, I never thought of writing a book. Never thought that anybody would have any particular interest in anything I've got to say, except when it comes to local councils. Yeah, because then that's where I feel confident. That's where I feel that, yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. But a publisher got in touch with me and said, would you like to write a book? And I said, no, I don't think so. Because my idea of writing a book is that kind of thing where you sit down with an old typewriter. Yeah, there's angst. Yes, I don't smoke, but there's smoking into the night, bit of brandy involved, all that kind of thing. I thought, I don't have time. So I said, thank you, but no. But they were quite persistent. And they said, well, we can work with you around that. We can work with you around your kind of availability. So that, let's put together something that's not kind of like a novel,
yeah,
beginning and an end. Let's put together something that's kind of more, I guess, snapshots.
Yeah.
So that made it really much easier for me to write, because, at any time I could put half an hour away and sit and write, 500 words. So, and then they put it together very nicely. But when they were asking me about the book, he said, well, what would you like to write about? And I thought, well, what do I know? Because they will say, well, write about something you know. So I thought, well, I know about parish councils. But then I thought, we probably want to sell more than 7 copies. So I thought, that's not going to work, is it? And then so I gave it a bit more thought. And one of the things that my husband and I often do, that moment when you and your partner are getting into bed at night, and you have that kind of moment of, not every night, but moment of reflection over the day. And the number of times Stuart, that's my husband, and I say, it's bleeding common sense. Why aren't they doing this? And I thought, that's what I would like to write about, a book of common sense. And I guess for me, there's lots of things in there, because actually it's been shortlisted for the business book of the year.
Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing. Well done.
I thought, although, to be honest, Nick, it's a very long shortlist.
Yeah, but you're still on it. That's the main thing.
Still on it.
Yeah.
And there must be one person somewhere that's written a book that isn't on it, but but it is an honour to have been selected. And it's kind of full of things like my strategies. I mean, I never like to say I give advice to people. Nobody ever takes advice. Okay, so what's the point of giving it to them? But what I do is set out things that I have found have worked for me. And maybe you might like to try them. And that's about kind of how you manage difficult people in meetings, how you manage difficult meetings, how you manage your work-life balance, particularly if you've grown up as a woman and everyone keeps telling you you can have it all. And my view is, no, you can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of setting these, and again, then going
Powerful
on
stuff.
going into more private life things about the way. One of the things that frustrates the hell out of me, particularly, I think you may know the advert because it's on the telly all the time, about the advert that has lots of very, very thin, very scantily clad women generally, all being told that they're perfect. Now, these are women who, are supposed to look at them and say, well, clearly you're not perfect because, you might have, is it vitiligo? Is that how you pronounce it? That kind of thing. So you're not perfect, but, saying that, but again, this is a woman with vitiligo who is still incredibly beautiful. She is not the kind of person that you walk past in the street every day. So if we have young women growing up with the idea that you are perfect, then every time they look in the mirror and they don't look like that, then what are we doing to their self-esteem? And part of it is about, it's okay to be okay. You don't
Absolutely.
have to be perfect. Perfect isn't what we're aiming for. I think one of the examples I use is, as a society, we really rely on most of us being very similar to each other. And think of building a house with unique bricks. Every brick different from the last. Not going to happen, is it?
I like that. I think that's such an important message. I mean, in terms of professional speaking, it's something that I've worked hard to correct as well, because I run kind of quarterly public speaking coaching events, and 80% of the attendees are women. But when I get to, especially to stadium and conference level, where it's big events, then 80, 90% are male. There is still that disconnect where, like you said, traditionally, where you've not had that platform to deliver your message, but you've been told that you can. So, and there's a difference, isn't there, between what you're told and what's actually possible, I guess, in that sense. So the more work that you're doing on this front, I think the more that you're really kind of readdressing something that needs to be done. So well done, I think. And again, it's such a positive thing to come from what has kind of been quite a freak occurrence in that sense, in terms of that video going out. And the title, "You Do Have the Authority Here," is amazing. I'm a Columbo fan. I'm old school.
I love Columbo.
Yeah, I love Columbo. Oh, high five. And I was reading a book that was about Peter Falk. And he was saying the same thing as you were saying about the catchphrase that kind of everyone says to you and stuff, or says and doesn't say. He was saying that just one more thing. He said that he said you either go push against it or actually you go with it. And like he said, he managed to create so much good in the world through harnessing that catchphrase. And so I think what you've done is phenomenal. And you have your podcast as well. Is that correct?
Yes. And again, it's one of those things that, people have been generally incredibly kind to me. So when I've done something like, I opened the Brits, for example,
you say that so matter of fact. That's kind of like head blown. That's crazy, isn't it? That's so cool.
Well, I turned them down twice.
That's it. That's even better. That's even cooler.
They asked me first of all, and I looked at the diary and I thought, I feel really strongly about not bumping somebody, quote, smaller out of the diary for somebody bigger. It's just one of those things that I couldn't live with it. Even if nobody knew, I couldn't live with it. So if I've got a commitment in the diary, it's a commitment in the diary. Right?
Yeah.
And I had one. So I couldn't go down to London. And so I said, no, I just can't fit it in for the time. And I came back and said, well, what if we sweeten it with, bring your husband or partner, stay over in that nice hotel, but no, because I still can't make it because of the diary. None of that changes. So I thought that was the end of it. And then they came back to me and said, what if we do it virtually? We'll send a team up to film you, and then we'll send a team to the other 3 locations and we'll put them together in that way. I said, yeah, absolutely. Because it was only the time that was stopping me from doing it. And
I love that.
Jack Whitehall then in turn did my podcast for me. It was quite funny because obviously I've seen Jack many times on the telly. And I got the distinct impression, although he was a bit rude and naughty, I still got the impression he was really trying to be good. Like it was his granny that he was talking to. The other thing.
I love that.
This show is sponsored by Forging People, Transformational Speaking Coaching. Are you truly being heard in life, in business, in education, even at home? Your ability to deliver any message with clarity, power, and emotion will have an ultimately defining impact on your success as a speaker, leader, and influencer. For more information, contact team@forgingpeople.com. Are you truly being heard? It's time to find your voice.
And I think that really highlights kind of the ethics and the morals that drive you as well, to maintain that commitment to the diary. I think that's such a strong statement, and it could be massively overlooked, actually, that commitment to doing the right thing.
For me, it's huge. I mean, it's just something that, I don't know, I've never really thought it through. I just know it's really important to me. And the converse is true. If I ever feel that somebody has done it to me, then I guess I just lose their number out my phone book.
yeah, I get that completely. And in terms of, you say the majority have been kind and the majority have been supportive. Have you had to experience any toxicity or negativity, like from a public perception throughout the last period?
Yes, but very little of it. I have been incredibly lucky. As I say, most people are really nice to me. It's like, when journalists or even, on telly or whatever are interviewing me, they never cross-examine me. And I always think, I wonder why. For example, somebody might say, right, but surely, do we come across council meetings like Handforth very often? And I just go, no. And I wait for the challenge. Where's the evidence for that? No, just move on. Jackie said it was, it must be.
Do you feel that's because you haven't got an agenda? I think you find that a lot of people, especially kind of through people I've spoken to personally, that you just feel that they've got one eye on something else, and you seem very much in the room in that case.
I think that's something I need to take away with me. I don't know. In a way, I kind of miss it, because in a way it doesn't then give me the opportunity to really drive forward the point. But if I then try and do it on my own, I sound very defensive. Yeah. So I let it go. But no, in the main, people have been kind. But a couple of things surprised me. One is I have a fairly good following on Twitter with over 40,000 people now.
Nice.
And occasionally someone will write something like, you're a waste of space or something like that. And I'm left there thinking, but why are you following me? I don't have any problem with you thinking that, there's nothing I'm saying that's of any value to you. But why are you following me? Why do you feel you need to tell me this? And it's I can't help but engage in the conversation. I know I shouldn't. And it's like, somebody said, oh my God, all you have to do is appear in a Zoom meeting these days and you're a superstar. Why is that? And I replied something like, because I'm wonderful.
Well played. I like that. And not many people have a song by Andrew Lloyd Webber written about you. I was doing some research yesterday. Literally, there were rabbit holes going off all over the place. I could have spent a day researching the stuff that's been done in and around your world. And that song was amazing. Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote a song about Jackie Weaver. Crazy, but amazing.
I mean, I know this sounds awful, but I don't actually read any of it.
Okay, interesting.
And I don't watch myself on telly unless I'm suddenly caught on telly. We might be watching something and then suddenly something comes up that's been recorded weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't watch it.
So you mentioned like Jack Whitehall, and obviously with Mastermind, it was Celebrity Mastermind, wasn't Mastermind kind of Joe Public. So you're coming into kind of close proximity with these kind of celebrities from different backgrounds and specialisms and stuff. How have they been receptive of you in that sense? Have you had positive experiences with most? Again, is it like general public?
Oh, that pause was far too long, wasn't it?
There's something there.
It's always the same with me. If I tell you exactly what I think, it comes out straight away. If I feel I need to edit it, then I can't think of any words while I'm processing.
There's a pause.
Yeah, I need to get that politician's way of filling that gap with something. I think I've met two different people. I think I've met some incredibly kind personalities, as I would call them, irrespective of whether they're presenters or whether they're stars in their own right, that talk to you like an equal.
Yeah.
And I have met others who on the screen are your most ardent follower, etc. And as soon as the camera goes off, do not even breathe in your direction again.
Wow.
So I guess for me that's kind of like the two different kind of people that I come across.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of kind of, do you find that you're very resilient in terms of going into situations that are new and potentially daunting, like going onto Mastermind or onto the Brits, or how are you in those situations? Do you find it easy to adjust? Is there a mindset thing going on?
It's again a really interesting question. I do it. I come out the other end and I go and do it again. So I guess I'm okay with it. I guess part of it is also it's so difficult to convey how busy I have been. And there comes a point in that kind of busyness where you have no time to process what you're doing.
Mm.
So that no matter where you are, what you're really thinking about is what you're doing next, not what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, for example, for me, the weirdest one was the Big Fat Christmas Quiz.
Yeah.
Live audience, big studio, big stage, and was it 4 or 6 comedians introduced by Jimmy Carr, sorry, Jimmy.
That'd have been something if it was Jimmy Hill, to be fair.
And you have a script, but the one thing I found out quite quickly, and particularly with comedians, is they do not stick to the script. So if you've read your script and you're absolutely wedded to it, it's kind of like stand up, come out, stand on that spot, look at camera 6, do this line, 2 camera 6, change after camera 6, move over to 5, laugh, we're gone. And then you walk out, and we start off, as we had planned, and then Jimmy Carr goes completely off message and says, "You're really good at this, Jackie. You come here and do what I normally do." So now he's moved me onto what was the podium for asking questions. He said, "There you are. You read these questions." And I'm thinking, wonder if we're still on camera 5. Everything goes through my mind. And the next 5 minutes are a complete blur.
Wow.
So it's kind of like I've shifted into autopilot. I've got rid of everything else round about me. So I'm not even seeing the audience. I'm not seeing anything else. I'm just processing at speed whatever's coming up next. And I have no idea what that's going to be.
Amazing. And with so much kind of potentially for a lot of people could be quite overwhelming, that transition into the kind of limelight, and your busyness. Generally you're busy, but like you said, busy before, busy now. How do you like to switch off? How do you kind of recover? What do you enjoy doing yourself personally?
Just before I answer that, it's a really interesting question. I was about how people cope with that kind of level of attention suddenly. I was doing an event over in Guernsey for an organisation called Women in Public Life. And at lunch, we were running through the, how we were going to do the evening. It was going to be, it was live, but it was being recorded as well in front of a big audience.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it and, getting quite excited about it. And, yeah, that all sounds fine, no problem. And I looked at the woman next to me and she looked grey. And eventually she spoke and she said, "I'm really anxious about this." And in that moment, I thought, it had never occurred to me that everybody else wasn't as comfortable with this as I am. And I just took it for granted that we were all okay with this. And I said to her, "Don't worry, I'm chairing it. If I feel that you run out of things to say, don't worry. I'll either prompt you to get us back on track, or we'll just move on, or I'll fill it in. Don't worry. Anything you say is great. And if you feel that's only a little bit, then that's fine. Don't worry about it." And she was great, of course she was. So I'd say that's the first thing that never occurred to me. And how do I switch off? I like to play mindless computer games.
Oh, brilliant. What kind of games?
Things like Tetris.
Amazing. Good stuff.
Woody, that kind of thing. So they're very much things that are puzzles that go together, that kind of thing. And I watch the telly at the same time, because I find that telly doesn't fill up my whole head.
Do you know what? I get exactly the same. I've quite often would do the same thing. You're quite right, especially with that ad breaks as well.
No, I also do lots of handicrafts. I mean, I've nothing on the go at the moment, but I mean, during lockdown, I knitted 9 pairs of socks for my husband, 2 jumpers, and I like to do any kind of needlework, that kind of thing. But I've got nothing on the go at the moment, so there's always something in my hands, kind of occupying part of my brain while I'm watching the telly.
That's really cool.
That's usually what I do at night, because by the time nighttime comes, there's nothing left.
Yeah, absolutely. And that creativity is a really good thing, isn't it? I can absolutely see a Jackie Weaver range of socks now. I can just see. You've heard it here first, folks. Just stay tuned.
It's so interesting. I mean, one of the problems I have is that as a knitter, I'm really good. Don't get me wrong. I am not. I mean, I can do an Aran pattern. Rubbish at Fair Isle. And any intarsius kind of stuff, no, not for me. I tried lace work, no, not for me. But when it comes to sort of fairly ordinary knitting, I have such a big output, but I don't know what to do with it, So the idea of socks is they're knitted on very, very tiny needles with very fine wool in a circle. So actually, it's quite time consuming to do it.
Yeah, I
I end up with lots of opportunity to knit, but without that huge amount of stuff at the other end. I don't want to wear it. Stuart's very proud of his knitted jumpers, but I don't like jumpers. I mean, I'm always hot. I don't want a jumper.
Yeah, same me.
They want woolly socks.
Open shirts for the win. So look, I guess to say, like, kind of what's next for Jackie Weaver. I mean, if you would have asked that 3 years ago, you would never seen what's coming next. But what is next for Jackie Weaver? I mean, you have so many amazing things going on: the pod, the book. You've got your media stuff. You've also got, obviously, still your commitments professionally too. Is there any kind of big, outrageous goals that you really want to aim for?
I don't want for big, outrageous goals. I am incredibly pragmatic. But one of the things that we've just finished work on was a little video aimed at what I call the unusual suspects. I'm hoping that we can release it on the 14th, which is Voters Registration Day. And it's about encouraging people to say, actually, being a counsellor is perhaps something I could do. Because there's so much information out there, it's very accessible. And what I mean by that is it's not all written in local council language. But what I felt was missing was the thing that makes people say, I could do that. And then going and finding out more about it. So that video, I hope, will be seen all over the place. It'll be freely available. And I hope we really push it coming up to the elections to make people think that going back to actually where we started with the conversation, being a counsellor is not about being a counsellor. It's about using the council mechanism to deliver for your community. And if you're someone who's got ideas or just heart for your council, then actually have a look. you might find something there that's worth looking at. And, you know, if you're looking for more written information, have a look at the NALC, that's nalc.gov.uk website, on their Make a Change campaign.
Amazing.
All about encouraging those unusual suspects to get involved.
Love the sound of that. Great stuff. Great stuff.
The other thing for me, which is kind of the legacy of the last year, is that I think our local councils, our town and parish councils, are more visible. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that I'm getting invited to partnership meetings, organisations, events, etc., that would not normally have a local council presence. So for me, that's hugely important. You know, it's where the day job and the kind of celebrity bit really overlaps. Because I think that I don't think they invite me necessarily because I'm a celebrity. I think they invite me because they've identified someone that can speak on behalf of the sector and is then known, you know, for something else. So that for me is what I hope to build on.
Well done, great stuff. Before I let you go, the question I like to ask everybody that comes on the show is this. I'm going to set the scene, and this will probably happen to you, actually, given your status, but I am now the MC of the O2 Arena in London. 20,000 people have paid our hard-earned money to come and hear you do your thing. What would be your walk-on music as I introduce you to the stage? What would be your walk-on music?
I thought really hard about this because there was two things. It's about, you know, what do I like the sound of? What do I feel has a good message? And, you know, I mean, you don't actually want to walk on to something like Chasing Cars. It's not quite the right vibe, is it? So I think I would go for I Am Woman by Helen Reddy.
Great choice, great choice.
Although I'm sure people will have to search for that. It'll be a long time since I've heard it.
Yeah, I've checked that already. It's a great track, and that will be on the playlist along with everybody else from season 4. So, look, Jackie Weaver, I've really enjoyed today. From me to you, big round of applause. Thank you so much for using your platform to create so much positive change as well. And thank you for donating your busy time to be on the show. We truly appreciate it. I know everybody else will have enjoyed it too. So thank you so much, Jackie.
My pleasure.
No worries. Okay, so everybody else, please stay tuned. Next Monday, we will have another guest coming your way. So please do hit like and subscribe and all that jazz. And I'll see you then. In the meantime, take care, be well, and stay happy. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Do hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for future episodes. Published every Monday and available through YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. See you next week.